Hey guys, welcome back. And today we are on my final position ranking for my preseason 2025 NFL draft evaluations. Today we're going over my favorite position, and that is going to be the cornerback position. Now, there are a ton of elite corners in this class. It's so jumbled up, I'd say, from about number 14 to number 25. There's a ton of different skill sets. I think this is going to be a very, very good corner class. And today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite prospects, some sleepers who you guys might not be too familiar with. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. If you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. We are back with the prospect spotlights. The Patreon is $5 a month, so you guys can join for there. You guys will get full access to my draft guide that is completely full as of now. Obviously, we're going to continue to add players, but at least for my preseason rankings, we are done. Also, be sure to check out Underdog Fantasy using my code JWAX to get double your initial deposit up to $250. And let's go ahead and get right into it with my number 25 corner, and that is going to be Fentrell Cypress. Now, Azareye'h Thomas, the other Florida State corner, is in my pending category right now. I just want to see a little bit more from him before we put him on here. But he flashed some potential. Cypress was a guy that coming into the 2024 draft, I thought he was going to declare, and he was one of my sleepers in this class. He had really good size. I believe he's around 6'1", incredibly long arms. He's got really good open field speed, fluid hips. He showed some really good physicality. He played a lot of press coverage at Virginia. And I thought he was going to be one of the big risers of the college football season. I think he came in as a top 5 corner for me last year. Preseason, and didn't really have the season for Florida State that you were expecting. Allowed a lot of really short plays. He lacks play strength, so he gets bodied by more physical receivers far too often, and that is an area he needs to improve upon. Not a great tackler at all. Was a poor run defender when coming downhill, and he's got to add on weight. He's, I believe, around 190 at around 6'1". He looks a lot smaller than that, though. He's very fluid, though. He's got size. He's got speed. He's kind of an athlete that still needs to kind of put pieces together right now, but I do think Fentrell Cypress is going to be a very intriguing prospect down the board. He is my number 25 corner. At number 24, we've got Aiden White from NC State. Now, this is one that I think people are going to be a little bit, whoa, you're pretty low on him. I just didn't really see it with him, to be completely honest. I think he had really good feel and zone coverage, and in a heavy zone scheme, he's going to do really well. He's got good size. He's got good instincts. I thought he was pretty physical. He had a good punch at the line of scrimmage. When he did get matched up in man-to-man, had fluid hips. He had good change of direction. My issue with him was aggression. He wasn't physical, didn't really have he wasn't physical in coverage, wasn't a hard hitter as much as you would like to see. And I think that's an area that I value in corners that I really didn't see from Aiden White. He also really had average speed at best. It wasn't anything that was special to me. And as a run defender, I also thought he was pretty underwhelming. So those are areas that I think he's got to improve upon. He was just such a soft hitter, not a good tackler at all. And those are areas that I think he's going to have to improve upon. Still think he's got really good feel in zone. He can play man, but I think a heavy zone scheme is where Aiden White's going to thrive. He's my number 24 corner. Number 23, we've got Tommy Hill from Nebraska. Really interesting player here. Incredibly quick, twitchy athlete. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he played some wide receiver as well for Nebraska. So kind of a dual threat piece, similar to another guy we'll get into on the board later. He's really good in press coverage, though. I think those are the areas I was most impressed. He had the physicality that you look for. He was super quick, had a good back pedal, fluid hips. And he's flashed some good ball skills. He had really good closing speed on the football, was able to close for interceptions or get pass deflections as well, which I thought was impressive. He had really good speed in the open field to match up with quicker wide receivers deep. So from that perspective, you absolutely love Tommy Hill and what he can be. The issues with him start in terms of his size. He is a little bit undersized at the position. I believe he's listed around 6 foot, but he looks more like around the 5'10" range. So that's going to be something to monitor. He was too aggressive at times in terms of biting on double moves. Not really staying with the receiver. He was just not very disciplined in coverage, I should say. His play strength was lacking at times. and he allowed too many short completions. So I'd like to see all those areas improve from him. Nebraska is going to be really good this year, I think. So Tommy Hill's a guy that I've got my eyes on to potentially rise up the board because he is such a good athlete and he has such good ball skills. Number 22, we've got Zamiah Vaughn out of Utah. I really like him. I think he's super fluid. He's got awesome size. I believe he's around 6'2", 190. That's where the issue comes in. He is so slim. I think in my notes, I said he looks like the Slenderman out there because his arms are so long. He's so tall, but he is so slim in terms of his size. Was really good in off-man coverage, I thought. I thought he had good closing speed, closed on the football pretty well, made good decisions, was able to read and react really well for that Utah defense. He had really fluid hips. His change of direction is some of the best in the draft class. But again, we talked about his weight. On top of that, missed tackles in the open field. There were quite a few missed tackles that showed up on film that I think he's going to have to clean up. And then I think he got too grabby at times. He's a really good corner, but he gets overly physical with the ball in the air, and he is going to get called for flags if that happens at the NFL level. But I think because of his size, speed, change of direction, and instincts, he is going to be a probably third or fourth round pick. And that's why this class is so good, because I think every player we talked about could be picked in the first 4 rounds. So I got Zamiah Vaughn at number 22. I think he's a very intriguing prospect. Number 21, we've got Woody Washington out of Oklahoma. Now, Gentry Williams is also in my pending category. Missed quite a bit of time last year, so kind of want to get a full season to kind of see what he's going to be. But another really, really good athlete who showed fantastic quickness and speed to the football. His closing speed in particular was really impressive. And while he didn't really have a ton of ball skills, I thought he made really good plays on the ball. He showed physicality. He showed scheme versatility in terms of playing in off coverage, playing in press, playing in zone, which I really liked from him. Another guy that's pretty undersized, I could see him being a slot-only corner at the next level, strictly because of his quickness, getting to match up with some of these guys. I think he would thrive in that sort of role. And I think play strength is also an area of his that needs to improve. We talked about the lack of ball skills, but really solid player all around, good athlete with some physicality and can play in a lot of different schemes. I think he's a player who is going to see a nice boost this year. Getting to see him against SEC competition, I've got Woody Washington at number 21. At number 20, we've got Ricardo Hallman. Now, if you guys haven't noticed a trend, all these schools have been red schools so far, which it looked funny when you look at my board because I have them color-coded and there's just so much red. And then we get a little bit past that, but I digress. Ricardo Hallman here, I thought he was elite in off-man zone coverage. I thought that was an area that you really got to see his high football IQ. Reminded me a little bit of Bo Braid if he was a corner. I could see Ricardo Hallman being one of those guys for me because I actually really liked what I saw from him. Versatility, played in the slot, played on the outside, played in zone, played in off, played in press, played everywhere you wanted to see him play. Really smart football player, didn't bite, was disciplined, had good ball skills, closed on the football well. And you love all those areas from Ricardo Hallman. But when you look at some of the other tools that he is lacking, I don't think he's got really good run defense. And I think part of that, well, it stems from the 2 areas we're about to talk about. A 24% missed tackle rate is pretty abysmal. If you're missing 1 out of 4 tackles, you're kind of a liability there. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Tariq Woolen, but the problem there, he's not the athlete of Tariq Woolen. Doesn't have crazy good speed. So I think he is kind of going to be limited in terms of where he's going to fit the NFL level in an off-man zone coverage scheme because he's not a press guy. He's going to get beat to the outside. You can't put him in the slot because he's not a great run defender. So in an off-man outside corner, I think Ricardo Hallman could be a really good player. But because he is such a scheme-specific type of guy, I've got him at number 20. I still think he's a 3rd, 4th round pick, though. And I think he's going to have a good year for Wisconsin. At number 19 is probably the player I have been the lowest on for the last 2 years, and I just haven't been able to get there, and it is Jason Marshall from Florida. I know a lot of people love Jason Marshall. He's got some tools there where you're like, okay, this guy has some potential. He's got really solid size on the outside. He's a good run defender, comes downhill, tackles well, which you like to see. He's got a solid punch in press coverage. And I thought he was an elite zone coverage corner. that is where I think you're going to see the most out of Jason Marshall is in zone coverage, because he is a smart football player who understands how to stay in his zone, how to read the quarterback. That's the best you're going to get from Jason Marshall, because if he's in one-on-one situations, I think we saw it last year in the Utah game, opening game. He has some issues that are pretty apparent. And it starts with his speed. He's not the fastest corner in the world. I think he's overly aggressive at times in coverage. He's not disciplined, bites on double moves way more than you would like to see him do. And he's not a very hard hitter. He's a pretty soft tackler, but I do like his feel in zone. I like his ability in press. He's a good run defender. I think he's got potential, but I don't think he's a top 10 corner like a lot of people seem to think. I know he is a guy that I'm a little bit lower on than the consensus, and it happens, but Jason Marshall is my number 19 corner. I know it's a little bit low, but just didn't really see it from him on tape. Number 18, we've got Amir Hall. Now, we're starting to get into a few of my guys in this class. I think I've got 3 or 4 of my guys here. Amir Hall is one of them. A transfer from the University of Albany. Albany's put together some good NFL talent. They put Jared Verse on the field. He transferred. And then Amir Hall, been really, really good, transferring to Michigan. So that's something you should keep your eyes on, because if Michigan likes you, you're probably going to be good. He's got incredible length on the outside for a corner, was fantastic in press, which I thought was the most impressive part of him. Had a good punch, had a really fluid hips, a good back pedal. I love to see that from him. And he also had good closing speed. Closed on the football. He understand how to mirror routes and was really good in terms of his change of direction. Had some okay ball skills, nothing elite, but nothing terrible. He is an older cornerback prospect. I believe he's going to be around 24 at the time of the draft. So that always pushes guys down the board. Obviously, he's coming from a lower level of competition. Had some missed tackles that showed up, was not the strongest tackler in the world. And I thought in zone coverage, he just got his eyes lost, got stuck on the quarterback, missed his guy streaking right behind him. So those are areas I think Amir Hall can clean up, but definitely a guy that I think you should put on your radar, because he is a very fun corner. And I got him at number 18. At number 17, we've got Marcus Harris. So another sleeper Idaho corner transferring to Cal. And I've heard a little bit about him, but I think he is a little bit better than I was expecting him to be. I've got a 3rd-round grade on him. He's super quick, super twitchy athlete, which you'll love to see. He's got great change of direction, great speed as well. Really sticky in coverage and incredible in man. Didn't give up, was disciplined, had an elite motor. There was one play, I'm trying to remember which game it was, but there was a receiver that had gotten open. I think it was cover 2. The receiver got open, and you see Marcus Harris coming from the right side of the field, kind of doing the DK Metcalf thing, running full speed, ends up catching the guy. He's got elite motor. He's got good speed. He's great in coverage. I think he needs to add on a little bit of weight. He's a little bit undersized, might be a slot-only guy at the next level. Inconsistent tackler, had some up and down moments. And then his play strength wasn't elite either. All of that kind of stems from his size. Run defense was interesting, though, because he graded out well per PFF as a run defender. Didn't really see it on tape. So that's kind of where you got to trust your eyes, not really trust the numbers. But Marcus Harris going to Cal, playing ACC competition, would not be surprised in the slightest if he's in the top 10 by the end of the year, because he is a really good athlete who is elite in man coverage. But we still need to see a little bit more from him, and that's why he's at number 17. At number 16, we've got Damani Jackson out of Alabama, transferring from USC to Alabama. And another guy who I thought was really sticky in coverage, had some really good physicality and press, was disciplined for the most part, had good size, good length. He's just kind of a good athlete right now that's pretty solid in press coverage. Where you kind of have some concerns are he just got beat inside a lot. A receiver could gain leverage on quick outs, or quick ins, I should say, to the middle of the field. He just didn't really have the reaction time that you'd like to see to close on that. On top of that, I thought his zone instincts were a little bit inconsistent. And then there was a couple of plays where he would try to land that initial punch and press, and it just didn't land. The receiver was able to kind of get a step because he got flat-footed by doing that and didn't like that. I didn't think he was a great run defender either, but What you did see from him in press coverage was elite. And he does have some really good upside. He's got great size, and I'm intrigued by him. So he is my number 16 corner right now. Another guy that I've got about a third round grade on. And I'm going to be very interested to see how he does in Kalen DeBoer's our defense. Number 15, we've got Mansour Delane out of Virginia Tech. Let's just take a second to admire those beautiful Virginia Tech jerseys. And let's just talk about Mansour Delane, because I was pretty impressed with him. There are some people that I've followed, they're not fans. And I could see why. I mean, he doesn't have great run defense, which if he's probably going to be a slot guy, which you'd like to see him be a better run defender. His play strength wasn't elite. He needs to add on some weight because he is pretty slim. I believe he's around 5'11", 180 something. And he allowed a lot of shallow completions. Played a lot of zone, and there was just too many plays where underneath players could just get those short passes. It has to do a better job at getting those. But he has some of the best stop and go ability in this draft class. He can stop and go on a dime. I think he's super quick with great closing speed, fluid hips, and he can play anywhere on the line. Played outside for Virginia Tech, played in the slot, played in man, played in press. You really like his versatility. I definitely like him better than Dorian Strong, who he's a late round pick, I think. I think he's got some real potential here because of his athleticism, because of his quickness, closing speed, showed some good ball skills as well. I am a fan of Mansour Delane. He's my number 15 corner. And then really from number 14, which is Quincy Riley, up to 13, I do think there is a gap. So 15 to 25, all really close. 14 to 1, well, I shouldn't say 14 to 1, but this is kind of the guys that I think could go in the second round, anywhere from here. We start off with Quincy Riley from Louisville. I didn't like Jarvis Brownlee last year for similar issues to what I have with Quincy Riley, but I actually think he's a little bit of a better athlete than Jarvis Brownlee was. He's got really solid length. I thought his instincts and zone coverage were elite. He is a super physical player who hits hard, hits very hard, and he's got good ball skills. I think he's a smart player with good length. I think he got overly aggressive at times, which we talked about Jarvis Brownlee. He is going to probably be a flag machine at the next level because he just doesn't know when to take his hands off receivers at times. He is going to get flagged quite a bit. I didn't think his speed was incredible, but because he is so smart in zone, I don't really think he has to be. Run defense is an area that I think is a little bit up and down, so I'd like to see that improve. But I do really like Quincy Riley. I think he's got some upside in zone coverage. I love his physicality. Needs to tone it back a little bit, but overall, really solid player from Louisville, and he's at number 14. At number 13, we've got Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. So I like the Kentucky guy better than the Louisville guy. He was a little bit better in zone coverage. Kentucky played 75% of their snaps in zone last year, which is kind of my issue with Maxwell Hairston, actually. We'll just talk about that now. He feels very scheme-specific because he didn't really play a lot of man coverage. When he did, there was not really any major flashes there. What he does have going for him, though, he is a really good athlete. He's got good closing speed. He's got good change of direction. So he's got actually like tools that could translate well to man, but we didn't really see it from him. He baited the quarterback incredibly well in zone. I thought he did a really good job of like selling the quarterback off and then closing back on the football. He had really good ball skills. He's a really good mover for the position. Had actually some good tackling as well, which you like to see. My issues here, we talked about it. I think he's very scheme specific. Didn't really see a lot from him in man. And I think he's pretty slim in terms of his weight. So he's going to have to bulk up a little bit at the NFL level. But overall, I'm a pretty big fan of Maxwell Hairston, and he comes in as my number 13 corner. At number 12, we've got Dalen Everett out of Georgia. Another guy that I really like, but I think is very scheme specific. Played a lot in zone coverage for Georgia and was incredible. He had some of the best zone instincts of any corner in this class. He showed a decent punch and press. He's got really good size, really good length. Maybe one of the best tackling corners in this draft class. I think if we're ranking them based off tackling, Everett is going to come in at number 2 for me. We'll talk about who number 1 is later. My issues with him, change of direction was really underwhelming. He had really tight hips. His speed was not amazing. and didn't really have any ball skills. I believe he had 4 pass deflections on the year, so wasn't super productive, but he is, in my opinion, the best pure zone corner in this draft class. I think that's got to count for something. He's got good size. I think he at least shows upside in press. We haven't seen it put all together, though. He's my number 12 corner, though. I think he's a good player, and I got him coming in here. At number 11, we've got Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. Love the name, by the way. Mamba forever. But this is a guy who's got a good size and speed combo, and you love to see that. He's around 6 foot, 188, really good hitter. Like one of the hardest hitters in this class. I want to say it's against Illinois. I could be wrong here. There is a screenplay that he snuffs out, and he comes down like a missile, forces a fumble, ends up picking it up. It's a huge momentum-shifting play. He hits with incredible power. He's got good closing speed, showed coverage versatility. He's got fluid hips. There's a lot there to really like about Kobe Bryant, but he's a poor run defender. Was one of the more underwhelming watches there. Play strength was a bit up and down, and surprisingly, he's such a hard hitter, but I didn't think he was very physical, particularly in coverage. I thought he was going to be a lot more aggressive, show a better punch, show something. Wasn't very physical, so I'd like to see that improve from him, but really good player. Don't know why Colorado fans are so obsessed with hating him. He is a very good corner, and I've got him at number 11. Entering my top 10, we are going to start off with Sebastian Castro. Look, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Castro. I was like, I mean, he might be okay. Was one of my favorite watches and was an immediate my guy in this class. I'm going to do a video on this probably once I get into my new place. Actually taking this down right after we record this, but he is a really smart, really good football player. Now, he is probably a slot guy at the next level. I know a lot of people have questioned if he's a safety or a corner. I think he's a slot corner. Really incredible instincts, had good closing speed, especially as a run defender and snuffing out screens. He was incredible. I'm trying to think. I watched the Iowa State game where he did a really good job in zone coverage, actually, surprisingly, because for a slot corner, you expect him to be better in man. He's good in man. I thought he thrived in zone, so that's going to be interesting to see kind of where they want to put him. But he baited, what is his name? He baited the Iowa State quarterback, ended up jumping the ball for an interception. He's got ball skills. He is a very hard hitter because he sees screens developing, comes full throttle, knocks the ball loose. He's a hard hitter. Really good stuff there. But he is probably just a slot guy, which does push him down a little bit. I also thought he was susceptible to getting to beat to quick outs in one-on-one coverage. Just was not super disciplined in man coverage. Now, he's not a bad man coverage guy. I think he thrived in zone, though. So it's going to be interesting because I think he's got the size to be a slot, but he was best in zone. So maybe you do move him to safety. But either way, I think Sebastian Castro is an awesome player, and he comes in at number 10. At number 9 for me, it's Ephesians Prysock out of Washington. Now, he's transferring from Arizona, following Jed Fish over to the Huskies. Man, he is a real project right now that if you can get him refined, he's going to be a top 5 corner in this class without question to me because he's physical. He showed a really nice punch and press coverage. Honestly, he might have been too physical at times. There are times I'm like, yeah, he's getting flagged on that in the NFL level without question. He is a really good press corner. Very good. He's got incredibly fluid hips, good size, speed combo. I take back what I said about the fluid hips because he is a little bit choppy at times. Didn't seem very fluid. Wasn't a bad mover by any means, but didn't really look natural. Another guy that is super slim for the position, but really liked what I saw from him, particularly impressed his physicality, his size, speed, length. It's all there. He needs to be a better tackler at times, but I am a fan of Ephesians Prysock, and he comes in as my number 9 corner. At number 8, we've got Jabbar Muhammad out of Oregon, transferring from Washington to Oregon, which is something. Really liked what we saw from him, though. Was very good. Was the best corner on Washington last year. And he's got quick feet, real flexibility in terms of man coverage, zone coverage, played in the slot, played outside. He is a bit undersized. I still think he's an outside corner, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team wanted to put him in the slot because he's got good closing speed, good ball skills. I think his speed is really good. He's flexible, could play anywhere on your defense, and he's got good ball skills. Had a number of interceptions for the Huskies last year. I will say his tackling technique was a little bit underwhelming for me. I think he got occasionally flat-footed and beat more than I'd like to see, but I'm a fan of Jabbar Muhammad. I really like him. He comes in as my number 8 corner. I think he's got upside to develop into something even better than that. At number 7, we've got Denzel Burke from Ohio State. This is where the first-round picks start. I've got 7 corners with a first-round grade. And Denzel Burke was a guy that I didn't like 2 years ago when I started him last preseason. Ended up really impressing me last year. And he's back into the first-round mix. I don't think he's super physical. I think he could be overly aggressive, needs to be more disciplined. And I think in zone coverage, I'd like to see him play a little bit closer in his zone, allow too much underneath. But this is a guy who's got good speed. He can mirror routes incredibly well. I think he's a great run defender. He's got fluid hips. He can play in man coverage, has some speed to match up with receivers down the field, and he's got zone upside. So you like a lot of the tools he brings to the table. And he had a better year last year than he had 2 years ago. He has consistently gotten better each and every year of his collegiate career. Came back to win a national championship. We shall see. I've got him as the number 2 corner on Ohio State, and I've got him as the number 7 corner in this class. At number 6, we've got Tacario Davis from Arizona. So we got 2 former Arizona guys, 2 Ohio State guys, and I think he has tremendous size. 6'2", another guy that I think has a very smooth back pedal. His change of direction is elite. I think he's got great instincts all around. Zone instincts are there. Man instincts are there. He's got really good closing speed, had great ball skills, had a number of interceptions, pass deflections for Arizona last year. You love to see that. He is very fluid, very quick, very smart. His run defense could go up a little bit. Not an area that I was super impressed by. His tackling as well needs to improve. And I think his speed, this is kind of why I had him lower. His speed was not as good as I thought. He was really quick, had really smooth hips, but didn't have great long speed. So that's going to be an area to monitor with Tacario Davis. Entered the portal and ended up going back to Arizona. So there's something there to be said. I am a fan of Tacario Davis, though, and he is my number 6 corner. Number 5, we've got Davison Igbinosun out of Ohio State. Now, I have him as the top Ohio State corner because I think he's the fastest cornerback in this draft class. He was blazing fast at times. I was like, holy cow. A very strong tackler, has really good size for the position, was really disciplined, didn't bite on double moves, was a good run defender, which I like to see. Obviously, the speed. The ball skills were weird because he only had 4 pass deflections on the entire year. That was it. No interceptions. So the ball skills are going to have to improve. He wasn't the most physical player in the world. And again, trust your eyes, not the tape. But PFF did not have him as a great coverage grade guy. A guy that I think is a bit of a project right now, but you will bet on that size, that change of direction, that run defense. Like, you'll bet on that because he has a lot of tools that are going to translate to the NFL level. And that's why I got him at number 5. At number 4 is a player that I bet most of you aren't very familiar with. And he was one of the most impressive watches of the draft class. And that is going to be Savon Ravel out of East Carolina. He has elite size. I believe he's around 6'3", 185. He is one of the best tackling corners in this class. We talked about Dalen Everett being number 2. It's behind Ravel because he came downhill, made plays in run defense. He came and had some incredible open field tackles. I thought his speed was underwhelming for a little bit. And the more I watched, I was like, okay, this guy has really good speed. He's got good quickness. He can play in both man and zone coverage, which you really like to see. And I was really impressed by that. I think he got flat-footed at times, so just kind of limited his reaction time. His ball skills were not elite, but he's an older prospect as well, playing in the American, which is not a great conference. East Carolina sucks, but this is a guy you need to put on your radars. He is fantastic. He is a first-round pick to me, and I've got him at number 4 in this class. At number 3, Travis Hunter. We talked about him as a receiver. I think he's a good corner that might actually be a better receiver, which I know a lot of people don't agree with that. He's still an elite athlete, absolutely incredible athlete who understands how to mirror receivers' routes very well. He's super physical in coverage. He showed some great ball skills. I mean, the interception week 1 against TCU was one of the best plays from the college football season. He's probably going to run the 4.3s. He's super twitchy. His change of direction is out of this world. He's got good ball skills. I still think he's slim. He got bodied by bigger receivers. And that game against Stanford was one of the worst cornerback performances I've seen. It was horrible. His tackling technique and his run defense also could improve. But Travis Hunter is a very good player. He is my number 3 corner in this class. Him and Ravel are very close for me, but I like the athleticism a little bit more with Hunter. I think I trust the competition level a little bit more. So I've got Travis Hunter at number 3. Number 2, we got Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. The only receiver, our only corner that gave Marvin Harrison Jr. any sort of trouble was Benjamin Morrison. He moves extremely well, has ball skills, closing speed. He's very physical in coverage. I think his play strength is lacking at times, had some missed tackles, and it could be overly aggressive as well. However, he is a very good player, and I think he is going to be a top 15 pick at the worst because he is such a fluid athlete, physical, and that game against Marvin Harrison Jr. was incredible. But my number 1 shouldn't come as a surprise. It's Will Johnson. Pros, everything. I really don't think there's very many weaknesses in his game. He moves incredibly well. He's physical, can play in press, can play in zone, can play in off man, had good ball skills. He was very smart, very disciplined, has great size. I mean, what's there not to like about Will Johnson? His tackling might be a little bit soft. He isn't the fastest guy in the world, but because he's so smart and he is so fluid, he doesn't need to be super fast. He is a generational corner. I just did my full 7-minute video on Will Johnson. So if you guys are interested in that, go check that one out. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that. You guys can go check out that video over there. But that's going to do it for me in this one. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new. Stay tuned. Prospect spotlights are coming. We are ramping up for college football, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.